Hello everyone, I am an idiot, and today I am going to be not ripping apart, I'm going to be reading another lost episode story that was made about a decade ago, in hopes that I am able to get some fun out of it. And I still can't put together a proper intro, so let's just start. Dead Bart. You know how Fox has a weird way of counting Simpsons episodes? They refuse to count a couple of them, making the amount of episodes inconsistent. The reason for this is a lost episode from Season 1. Finding details about this missing episode is difficult. No one who was working on the show at the time likes to talk about it. From what has been pieced together, the lost episodes was written entirely by Matt Groening. During production of the first season, Matt started to act strangely. He was very quiet, seemed nervous and morbid. Mentioning this to anyone who was present results in them getting very angry and forbidding you to from ever mentioning it to Matt, and I can't freaking speak. I first heard of it at an event where David Silverman was speaking. Someone in the crowd asked him about the episode, and Silverman simply left the stage because he's such a nice guy, ending the presentation hours early. The episode's production number was 7G06. The title was Dead Bart. The episode labeled 7G06, Moaning Lisa, was made later and given Dead Bart's production code to hide the latter's existence. In addition to getting angry, asking anyone who was on the show about this will call them to do everything they can to stop you from directly communicating with Matt Groening. At a fan event, I managed to follow him after he spoke to the crowd, and eventually had a chance to talk to him alone as he was leaving the building. He didn't seem upset that I had followed him, probably expected a typical encounter with an obsessive fan. When I mentioned the lost episode, though, all color drained from his face and he started trembling. When I asked him if he could tell me any details, he sounded like he was on the verge of tears. He grabbed a piece of paper, wrote something on it, and handed it to me. He begged me never to mention the episode again. The piece of paper had a website address on it. Yeah, I'd rather not say what it was for a reason you'll see in a second. I entered the address into my browser, and it came to a site that was completely black, except for a line of yellow text, a download link. I clicked on it, and a file started downloading. Once the file was downloaded, my computer died. It was the worst virus I'd ever seen. System restore didn't work. The entire computer had to be rebooted. Before doing this, though, I copied the file onto a CD. I tried to open it on my now empty computer, and as I suspected, there was an episode of The Simpsons on it. The episode started off like any other episode, but had poor quality animation. If you've seen the original animation for Some Enchanted Evening, it was similar, but even less stable. The first act was fairly normal, but the way the characters acted was a little off. Homer seemed angrier. Marge seemed depression. Lisa seemed anxious, and Bart seemed to have genuine anger and hatred for his parents. The episode was about the Simpsons going on a plane trip. Yep, anything else about the episode they can't be screwed to describe. Near the end of the first act, the plane was taken off. Bart was fooling around, as you'd expect. However, the plane was about 50 feet off the ground. Bart broke a window on the plane and was sucked out. At the beginning of the series, Matt had an idea that the animated style of the Simpsons world represented life, and that death turned things more realistic. This was used in this episode. A picture of Bart's corpse was barely recognizable. They took full advantage of it not having to move, and made an almost photorealistic drawing of his dead body. Act 1 ended with the shot of Bart's corpse. When Act 2 started, Homer, Marge, and Lisa were all sitting at the table, crying. The crying went on and on and on and on and on and on. It got more pained and sounded more hyper-realistic. Sorry, I just want to make that sure. It sounded more realistic. Better acting than you would think possible. The animation started to decay even more as they cried, and you could hear murmuring in the background. The characters could barely be made out. They were stretching and blurring like an awful Photoshop, and they looked like they were deformed shadows with random bright colors thrown on them. There were faces in the window flashing in and out, saying you were never sure what they looked like. The crying went on for all of Act 2. Act 3 opened with a title card saying 1 year had passed. Homer, Marge, and Lisa were skeletally thin and all sitting at the table. There is no sign of Maggie or the pets, even though they haven't been mentioned once in this entire story. They decide to visit Bart's grave, because that's totally what you do on your Sunday afternoon. Springfield was completely deserted, and as they walked the cemetery, the houses became more and more decrepit. They all looked abandoned. When they got to the grave, Bart's body was lying in front of the tombstone, looking just as it did at the end of Act 1, because he apparently aged like just fine wine. The family started crying again. Eventually they stopped and stared at Bart's body. The camera zoomed in on Homer's face. According to summaries, Homer tells a joke at this part, but isn't audible in the version I saw. You can't tell what Homer is saying. The view zoomed out as the episode came to a close. The tombstones in the background had the names of every Simpsons guest star on them. Jesus. Some that no one had heard of in 1989. Some that hadn't been on the show yet. All of them had death dates on them. For guests who have died since, like Michael Jackson and George Harrison, the dates were when they would die. The credits were completely silent and seemed handwritten. The final image was the Simpsons family lying on their couch like in the intros, but all drawn in realistic, lifeless style of Bart's corpse. A thought occurred to me after seeing the episode for the first time. You could try to use the tombstones to predict the death of living Simpsons guest stars, but there's something odd about most of the ones who haven't died yet. All their deaths are listed as the same date. God, it's over. And because I need to pad this out, since this is like 9 minutes long, I'm going to read some of the comments. Woohoo, because I'm totally not ripping off Fish Stick on a Stick yet, so I need to go even further. Midnight Muffin says, who wrote the story, by the way? K.I. Simpson. It literally says it. Come on. Meh, I saw worse than this. Still sounds interesting, and it's not a bad Lost episode. Do you have a brain cell? Or are you 5 years old? That's hard to tell. Okay, first of all, I think this is straight up fake. Movie Boy says. Also, the last one was by Samantha47223. I am bad at this. The Silly Clown replies, Creepypastas aren't supposed to be real. They're just supposed to spook you a bit. Ooh. United States of Panda says, okay, this is super improbable, unreasonable, and obviously fake. First of all, it's impossible to predict someone's death years before it. Second, why would Matt Groening want to kill off a main character so early? I go on like this forever, but I'll save your time. Bra Moment 69420 Pog responds, obviously, yeah. But would have worked as well as a Tria House of Horror, no? 199p, he says, agreed. SpongeBob referenced Squidward's suicide, Red Mist, in one of their newer episodes. So did The Amazing World of Gumball, the Grieving Lost episodes. Now we wait for the Simpsons. Campway responds, I hope you know that most Lost episode creepypastas without full proof are fake. 199p responds again, don't everybody? Ian Bad German 24 says, I'm curious on what the Homer joke said was. Well, fun fact, there's a sequel to this that you could see, and it is 1,000,000 times more fucking worse than this. So just be happy you haven't seen that yet, hopefully. Squidward, and finally, Squidward's son's reacts. No, not finally. Second to finally. Words. Squidward's son says, this one fucking sucks. And finally, nice ABCD Una reverse card. No you. And that's gonna be it for Dead Bart. Bye.